Good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you. Let's begin with the headlines. Heavy rains trigger landslides in Darjeeling and Uttarakhand. 38 dead, many missing. Several tourists are stranded. Eurozone finance ministers rule out further talks on fresh bailout for Greece until the Sunday vote. Prime Minister urges people to vote against conditions. Over 100 killed in clashes between Islamic State and military in the Sinai province in Egypt. Army says 100 militants are killed. Another big upset at Wimbledon. Seven-seeded Anna Ivanovic is knocked out. Djokovic, Serena, Sharapova and Wawrinka through to round 3. And the Indian men's hockey team is through to the semi-finals of the World Hockey League. They will meet either France or Belgium next. Well, the day's biggest story, Eurozone finance ministers have ruled out any further talks on a fresh bailout for Greece until the vote on Sunday. Yesterday, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras had put new proposals to the creditors, accepting most of what was on the negotiating table. But it is the people who are suffering as the deadlock persists.
After making a defiant address to the nation urging Greeks to reject the international bailout deal, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras met with his finance team on Wednesday. He called on the people to vote no in Sunday's referendum and strengthen Greece's hand in negotiations. Tsipras put new proposals to Eurozone partners, agreeing to accept the bailout but with certain conditions. In exchange for the conditional acceptance, he asked for a €29 billion loan to cover all its debt service payments due in the next 2 years.
Είμαστε διατεθειμένοι να αποδεχτούμε και σκληρά μέτρα, τα έχουμε προτείνει άλλωστε, εφόσον το πλαίσιο μέσα στο οποίο θα ενταχθούν θα είναι βιώσιμο όσο αφορά το χρέος, όσο αφορά το αναπτυξιακό κομμάτι, για να μπορέσει να αποδηγιωθεί η Ελλάδα και το Brexit να φύγει από τη μέση. Καλώς. Να μην ξέρουμε ότι σε μερικούς μήνες θα είμαστε στο ίδιο σημείο πάλι.
But there appears to be no dissent in the creditors' view. Eurozone ministers in a conference call decided to hold off any further talks with the Greek government until after the result of the referendum.
There will be no further talks the coming days, nor at Eurogroup level, nor between the Greek authorities and the institutions on proposals or financial arrangements. We will simply await now the outcome of the referendum.
Meanwhile, IMF chief Christine Lagarde said the organization would still try to help Greece. Lagarde suggested that Greece should move to reform its economy before its European creditors give it a break on its debt. She hoped the referendum would bring more clarity and help restore balance to the situation.
I think there is a democratic process that is underway, and that should result in hopefully more clarity, less uncertainty as to what is the determination of the Greek people and what is the authority of the government. So hopefully it will be clearer in terms of future and negotiations going forward.
Majority of the Greeks are against the creditors' terms for the bailout, but the number of no voters seems to have gone down since the introduction of capital controls. Sunday's referendum will see the country vote on whether or not it wants to accept the cash for reforms deal. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And Egypt's Sinai has been rocked by a wave of deadly attacks that has left over 100 people dead. Now, the military says that 100 militants have been killed, while the casualty on its side is 17. Local officials, however, put the army death figure much higher.
Clashes between Islamic State militants and the army in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula have left more than 100 dead. According to the military, 17 of those killed were soldiers and more than 100 were militants. The military, however, says the Sinai is 100% under its control.
خير يا فندم على حضرتك وعلى الساده المشاهدين. اخر التطورات الحمد لله الوضع دلوقتي على الارض مسيطر عليه تماما بنسبه 100%. حصيله شهدائنا الابطال النهارده 17 شهيد. والقتلى من الإرهابيين
Near simultaneous raids were launched on at least 5 military checkpoints and a police station by the IS in and around Sheikh Zuweid on Wednesday morning. The attack was one of the largest coordinated assaults yet by the IS in Sinai. It is a significant escalation in violence in the peninsula that lies between Israel, the Gaza Strip, and the Suez Canal. This was the second high-profile attack in Egypt this week. On Monday, a bomb killed the prosecutor general in Cairo. The Israeli Prime Minister has condemned the attack.
ISIS at the gates, across the border in the Golan, across the border in Egypt. We send our condolences to the government and people of Egypt for the fallen Egyptians slayed by ISIS terror. We must stand up to all the forces of militant Islam.
The insurgency is seeking to topple the Cairo government. The Egyptian army has taken several measures to crush the insurgency. Besides bombardments in the region, they have destroyed tunnels into the Palestinian-ruled Gaza Strip and created a security buffer zone in northern Sinai. Under the terms of Egypt's 1979 peace accord with Israel, the Sinai is largely demilitarized. But Israel has regularly agreed to Egypt bringing in reinforcements to tackle the Sinai insurgency. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And sharp disagreements have forced the extension of the deadline for an agreement on a final Iran nuclear deal. It fueled concerns that Iran was trying to buy time while resisting inspections in any deal. The US has now threatened to walk away if it is a bad deal. IAEA chief is in Tehran today for talks. With another deadline going by in vain at the Vienna talks, the Iran talks on a nuclear deal have been extended till 7th of July. US Secretary of State John Kerry met his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Javed Zarif 5 times in 4 days. Zarif flew back to Tehran for consultations, returning to Vienna on Tuesday. The two sides agreed to extend an interim agreement that presently constrains Iran's nuclear plans for another week. Iran says that talks have been making progress.
I haven't set any deadline. We will continue and we will make progress. We have made progress and we will make progress and we will use every opportunity to make progress.
International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Yukiya Amano will be in Tehran today to discuss the issue of monitoring of sensitive nuclear sites, which is a contentious issue. On Monday, the US warned that a framework deal agreed in Switzerland in April had to remain the basis for a comprehensive agreement. This after Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei rejected key demands of the P5+1 in a speech a week ago.
There has been a lot of talk on the other side from the Iranian negotiators about whether, in fact, they can abide by some of the terms that came up in Lausanne. If they cannot, that's going to be a problem. Because I've said from the start, I will walk away from the negotiations if, in fact, it's a bad deal.
The negotiators hope to clinch an accord curbing Iran's nuclear program for a decade in exchange for relief from international economic sanctions. The US administration has agreed to submit any deal with Iran to Congress by 9th of July, giving both houses 30 days to review its terms and US sanctions be waived. This is believed to be the real deadline for an agreement. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. All right, let's get a perspective on that story. Mr. Javed Nakhvi, who's a senior journalist, is joining us. Thank you so much, Mr. Nakhvi, for joining us this morning. Mr. Nakhvi, now Iran nuclear talks are set to intensify today. There is another deadline that passed in vain. Do you think a final deal can be reached in a week now?
It is an extremely doable deal. In fact, it's more than half already done. There is a desperate opposition, which reminds me of a similar situation when the elections in the United States were looming. And the standoff assumed the kind of rivalry between the Democrats and the Republicans, considering that Iran had a major role in the outcome of the elections. And I'm referring here to the time when Jimmy Carter ran aground. He was involved in an attempt to rescue the hostages in Iran. And since he could not do that, he lost the election. And the Republicans, as it turned out eventually, had actually gone to Iran and done a deal with them that you do not release the hostages in Mr. Carter's tenure because that would help the Democrats win the election straight away. That's what brought President Reagan, if you remember, and Mr. Carter was defeated because Iran sided with the Republicans at that particular moment.
Right.
Now, the backdrop to how much influence Iran can play and has in the future runoff, and that is really what is troubling this deal. Yes, Israel has a position, a view against the deal. Saudi Arabia has a position against the deal. Several other countries in the Middle East are worried. But all in all, if you see what it means for us, let's say India, already the prospects of a deal between the West and Iran being clinched has impacted on the price of oil. 4% slide in the price of crude oil.
Right.
What it means to the rest of the world, you can well imagine. I mean, we're already witnessing an impact where the oil prices have really gone dipping, and
Right.
it has had a very good impact on all the consumers. So now, what it means in terms of what is going to, how it is going to play out in Vienna before July 9th, which is the deadline, as your reporter has just said. I think the deadline is really 7th is what they're looking at. And 9th is
That
the
is the time.
cutoff where the Congress goes,
Yes.
you know, sort of over a, yeah.
Yes, yes. Right. Mr. Nakhvi, at the same time, now US President Barack Obama is saying that he will walk away from the deal if it is a bad deal. How real is that threat?
That is just a reassurance to his constituents, and also a because there is really nothing that needs to be done. It's a half a screwdriver away. The deal is done and almost sealed. Mr. Obama has to balance things out, not for the United States so much as perhaps for the Democratic candidate in the fray in the next year's elections. And it could be Hillary Clinton, it could be somebody else, that he's really playing on that person's behalf. So let it not be seen as, you know, as a loser, as something that will sway voters away. So therefore he's, I think, keeping the demeanor of being a very cautious person, not appearing too eager to clinch the deal. But I think this is the deal that he has actually assembled. And for a very good reason. And he is in bad odor with Israel because of this, and he's taken. This is going to bring Iran back in the role that it used to have before the Islamic Revolution, of the policeman in the Hormuz, a representative of the American interest before Israel became the sole representative because America lost Iran.
All right. So you're saying it is a very doable deal. We have to wait and watch if deal can be sealed before 7th of July, which is the deadline. Thank you so much, Mr. Nakhvi, for joining us this morning and sharing your perspective on that issue. All right, let's move on in the bulletin now. The United Nations has declared its highest level humanitarian emergency in conflict on Yemen, where over 80% of the populace needs assistance. Now, UN officials have said that Arab world's most impoverished country is now a step away from famine. The humanitarian emergency has been declared for 6 months. The United Nations now faces 4 top-level humanitarian emergencies. The UN Humanitarian Office says that the declaration of a top-level emergency mobilizes UN-wide staffing and funding to scale up aid delivery. An attempt last month at the UN-led talks among Yemeni parties in Geneva failed to reach an agreement. The fighting in Yemen pits Houthi Shiite rebels and allied troops loyal to former President Saleh against Sunni Islamic militants, southern separatists, local and tribal militias, and loyalists of President Mansour Hadi. A Saudi-led and US-backed coalition began launching airstrikes against the rebels on 26th of March, and a near blockade of Yemen's ports has made it very difficult to deliver humanitarian aid to that country. And amidst the stories of fighting and despair in the Middle East comes the news of Saudi Arabian billionaire prince Alwaleed bin Talal pledging to donate his entire fortune to a charity. The 60-year-old prince is one of the world's richest people, and his wealth is pegged to be at $32 billion. The prince said that he has been inspired by the Gates Foundation, set up by Bill and Melinda Gates in 1997. The money would be used to foster cultural understanding, empower women, and provide vital disaster relief, among other things. Prince Alwaleed is listed by Forbes at number 34 on the list of the world's richest people. The money will go to the prince's charitable organization, Alwaleed Philanthropies, which he has already donated $3.5 billion. And more news from across the world in World Wrap. US stocks closed higher on Wednesday as the back and forth between Greece and its creditors fueled hopes about a possible deal. Despite the mixed messages, the Dow Jones closed up 138 points, that is nearly 0.8%, and the Nasdaq picked up just over 0.5%. A fresh bailout proposals from Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras cheered investors, even though Eurozone finance ministers have ruled out any further talks on a fresh bailout until the country holds its referendum on Sunday. 2 new cases of Ebola were recorded in Liberia. Now, this after the country had been declared Ebola-free more than 7 weeks ago. The second case of Ebola was confirmed following the death of a teenager from the virus on Sunday. The new case was in Nedoween, the same village where the boy died. The authorities have quarantined the area after the teenager's death. More than 11,000 people have died of the disease since December 2013, the vast majority of them in Liberia, Guinea and Sierra Leone. Tunisia has deployed 1,000 armed police in tourist hotspots in wake of the attack on its beach on Friday that left 38 foreign tourists dead. The move was part of a number of security measures enforced by the Tunisian Prime Minister. Meanwhile, authorities have finished identifying all 38 foreigners killed in the attack, 30 of them Britons. The first bodies of some of the British tourists shot dead in the Tunisia beach attack arrived back in the UK. Early morning protests turned violent in Chile after police fired water cannons and threw tear gas at protesting teachers. Now, 3 people were arrested after more than 100 teachers marching towards the Congress in city of Valparaiso interrupted rush hour traffic and clashed with the police. For the past 1 month, now teachers in Chile have been on a strike over an education reform bill that reduces their wages and requires them to spend more hours for meetings and planning. The White House has lifted a 40-year-old ban on taking photos during public tours and encouraging guests to put pictures on social media with the hashtag #WhiteHouseTour. US First Lady Michelle Obama made the announcement via a video on her Instagram account. However, some cameras and accessories such as the selfie sticks are being banned along with video cameras. Well, in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break, but after that, we'll get you news on heavy rainfall triggering landslides in Darjeeling and Uttarakhand. Several people are dead and several are stranded. We'll get you all the details. Stay with us.
Get live Rajya Sabha session, news, views, reports and analysis you can trust on social media. Subscribe, follow, like. Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back after the break. Now, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee will be visiting heavy rain-hit areas in Darjeeling today, where at least 38 people have been killed and 500 others displaced due to landslides. The rains have caused extensive damage to National Highway 10 and NH 55, cutting off road links to the state and also the state of Assam. NDRF teams and Army have stepped up relief and rescue operations. Army has also been deployed in Jalpaiguri district, which has been inundated due to sudden rise in water levels in all the major rivers. Here is more. At least 38 people have been killed in landslides in Darjeeling district after heavy rains wreaked havoc since Tuesday night. The landslides at 25 places in Darjeeling, Kalimpong and Kurseong subdivisions also washed away portions of highways, including a bridge, cutting off the road link to the region. Jalpaiguri is reeling under floods. The Army and paramilitary have launched massive relief and rescue operations in the areas. 2 NDRF teams comprising around 100 personnel has also reached for rescue operations.
कल का जो बारिश है उसके कारण से अभी आप देख रहे हैं वो ब्रिज भी पूरी तरह से टूट गया है और अब हम लोग यहाँ सब लोग फंस गए हैं सब लोग यहाँ पे हम लोग बैठे हुए हैं अभी तो
A central team headed by Union Minister Kiran Rijiju visited landslide-hit areas in Tingling on Wednesday evening. The team will visit Kalimpong areas today. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee will be visiting affected areas today. She is also expected to hold a meeting with local authorities. While Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced a compensation of 2 lakh rupees each to the families of the deceased, Mamata announced 4 lakh rupees ex gratia. The Gorkhaland Territorial Administration also announced a compensation of 2 lakh rupees for the families of the deceased.
Our priority is to make best possible effort for rescue operation now. Once rescue operation is over, then we will concentrate on the relief and then long-term reconstruction and rehabilitation. So we will do whatever is necessary. So Prime Minister is very much concerned, so he has sent me as a representative from the central government to extend all possible help to the people of Darjeeling area, the people of West Bengal.
However, the situation is going to get worse as the Regional Met Department has issued an alert of heavy rain for the next 5 days in Darjeeling and other parts of North Bengal. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And it is not just Darjeeling. Heavy rainfall in northern Uttarakhand state has also triggered landslides, which has led to the closure of Haldwani-Ramnagar highway due to rocks on the road. Now, many tourists on the highway are stranded due to the condition of the roads. Not just rocks, but a lot of trees have also fallen on the road, making it more difficult for the tourists to travel. There was traffic jam on the highway as big vehicles were not able to ply on the roads. However, small vehicles did not have any problem. The Met Department has said that the country received around 189.5 millimeters of rain in June, as against a normal of around 163.6 millimeters.
यहाँ पर मुझे हाफ एन आवर हो गए रुके हुए, अभी तक कोई जेसीबी आई नहीं है इसे हटाने के लिए। क्या दिक्कत हुई है, क्या हुआ है? ये पेड़ गिर गया है ऊपर से मलबे के साथ।
And a look at what other developments are making news and what is slated for the day ahead in our next segment. Polling for Rajya Sabha by-poll from Jharkhand will take place today. The by-election has been necessitated after the resignation of Dr. Kanwardeep Singh in February. BJP has fielded its national spokesperson MJ Akbar, while JMM has fielded former Minister Haji Hussain Ansari. The counting of votes will take place on the same day after the polling. The 3-day CPI National Council meet will conclude today in Chandigarh. The CPI on Wednesday adopted 4 resolutions, including demanding resignation of tainted ministers in BJP government and constitution of an SIT under the supervision of a Supreme Court judge to probe killings in Vyapam case in Madhya Pradesh. This was party's first such gathering after its 22nd Congress held in March this year. The 16th World Sanskrit Conference will conclude in Bangkok today. Human Resource Development Minister Smriti Irani is likely to attend the concluding ceremony. Over 600 scholars from 60 countries participated in the 5-day conference, during which they shared their views on using Sanskrit as the medium of communication. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj had inaugurated the conference on 28th of June. Let's now get you some sports news. Well, on a very, very hot day, top seeds Novak Djokovic, Serena Williams, Maria Sharapova and Stan Wawrinka breezed into round 3 at the Wimbledon. The upsets of the day were Kei Nishikori pulling out of the competition due to strain in his calf and Bethany Matic-Sands knocking out number 7 seed Ana Ivanovic. Here's a report.
Defending champion Novak Djokovic made short work of Finland's Jarkko Niemi on a day when the temperature hit 41.2 degrees on centre court at Wimbledon.
He's got it. He should shake hands now. Thank you very much.
The top seed won 6-4, 6-2, 6-3 to set up a third round match with Australian 27th seed Bernard Tomic.
This is the surface that he loves playing the most on, so it's going to be a difficult match. I remember back in, was it 2011, I think, quarterfinals, we played against each other, and 4 tough sets, so I'm not expecting anything easy there.
French Open champion Stan Wawrinka was in cruise control during a 6-3, 6-4, 7-5 win over Victor Estrella.
There it is.
But Milos Raonic was kept on court 1 longer than he would have liked by the oldest man in the singles draw. The Canadian 7th seed hurled down 29 aces, including one clocked at 145 miles per hour, to secure a 6-0, 6-2, 6-7, 7-6 victory over 37-year-old Tommy Haas. In women's play, world number 1 Serena Williams and 4th seed Maria Sharapova poured into the third round of Wimbledon with straight set wins. In record temperatures, William beat Timea Babos 6-4, 6-1 to set up a meeting with Britain Heather Watson. 2004 champion and 4th seeded Maria Sharapova advanced by beating Dutch qualifier Richelle Hogenkamp 6-3, 6-1 on court 2. The Russian had 8 double faults but also 23 winners.
And she wins it in style.
First round match compared to today, different conditions. Court played a lot slower. We had a lot longer rallies. Didn't get a huge advantage off of the serve, or the return didn't serve.
In one of the day's biggest surprises, women's 7th seed Ana Ivanovic became the second top 8 women to fall as the Serb followed 3rd seed Simona Halep out of the tournament, beaten 6-3, 6-4 by 158th ranked American qualifier Bethany Matic-Sands. Heather Watson made sure Britain did not suffer a wipeout in the women's draw as she made it into round 3 with a 6-4, 6-2 win over Slovakia's former world number 5 Daniela Hanchikova. Next up for her, a certain Serena Williams. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And from tennis to hockey, and good news coming our way, because riding on 2 goals from drag flicker Jasjeet Singh and PR Srijesh's terrific form under the bar, India edged a spirited Malaysian side 3-2 to book a place in the semi-final of the Hockey World League semi-final 2015 at Antwerp on Wednesday. Now, India came from behind, scoring 2 goals in the final quarter after Malaysia had taken lead in the second quarter. Now, a win would have assured a place for Malaysia in the Rio Olympics, and they played an attacking brand of hockey that had the Indian defence at 6s and 7s. After India took an early lead courtesy Satbir Singh's strike in the 3rd minute of the game, Malaysia came back well, converting their first penalty corner at the stroke of the first quarter. Razi Rahim was the goal scorer, and Malaysia took the lead with another penalty corner conversion, this time by Shahril Sabat. Then Jasjeet fired the winning goal with 4 minutes remaining on the clock against the top of the net to seal the game for India 3-2. India will now face the winner of a Belgium-France game in the semi-final that will take place on 3rd of July. Well, that's it from me and my team in this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day ahead.